Have you ever wondered what happens when the forces of hatred and ambition collide head-on with boundless compassion and unwavering peace? What if the most dangerous threats to a profound spiritual message come not from external enemies, but from within the very circles of power and even family? Today, we journey into one of the most dramatic and illuminating chapters of the Buddha's life, a period marked by relentless assassination attempts, betrayal from within his own family, and the ultimate triumph of the Dhamma over the darkest forces of human nature. This isn't merely a historical account of intrigue, it's a profound exploration of the nature of evil, the resilience of enlightenment, and the transformative power of a mind truly free. We will witness how the Buddha faced death, not with fear, but with an unshakable inner peace, and how even the most bitter enemies were ultimately touched by his boundless wisdom. Prepare to be captivated by a tale of betrayal, forgiveness, and the eternal victory of light over shadow. Chapter 1. The conspiracy unfolds, a kingdom's betrayal and the first assault. The stage for this dramatic chapter is set in the powerful kingdom of Magadha, ruled by King Bimbisara, a devout patron of the Buddha. However, the seeds of discord and ambition were being sown by a ruthless figure, Crown Prince Ajatashatru. This prince, driven by an insatiable hunger for power, had already imprisoned his own father, King Bimbisara, and seized the throne. His ascent to power was part of a larger, more sinister conspiracy, orchestrated by none other than Devadatta. Devadatta was a complex figure, the Buddha's own cousin and brother-in-law. He had joined the Sangha, the monastic community, years ago. Shortly after the Buddha's enlightenment, while outwardly a disciple, Devadatta secretly harbored deep resentment and an intense desire for leadership. He felt that the Buddha had grown old and that the leadership of the Sangha should rightfully be handed over to him. He even approached the Buddha with this audacious proposal. But the Buddha, seeing through his ambition, firmly refused. Devadatta's pride further stung when the Buddha refused his other proposal to make changes in the Vinaya, the rules for the monks. Perceiving the Buddha's wisdom as an obstacle to his own authority, in a fit of anger and frustration, he broke from the Sangha, leading away 500 followers, and established his own rival school, a schism born of ego. Consumed by ambition and a thirst for revenge against the Buddha, Devadatta found a willing ally in the newly crowned king Ajatashatru. He went to the crown prince before he seized the throne and skillfully won his confidence. Poisoning his mind against the Buddha, Devadatta provoked the prince to commit patricide, to kill King Bimbisara and capture the throne. He promised Ajatashatru that in return for his help to seize power, Ajatashatru, once king, should get the Buddha killed, thus removing Devadatta's spiritual rival. The prince, convinced that this was the perfect plan for his own advancement, imprisoned his father and captured the throne of Magadha. Now, King Ajatashatru, burdened by his promise to Devadatta and his own desire to consolidate power, needed to return the favor. He dispatched a highly trained assassination squad. The king's plan was meticulously laid out. He deployed a multi-layered ring of elite archers, 2 archers hiding in the bushes by the roadside, 4 more in the next ring ready to shoot, 8 in a subsequent ring, and another 16 in the outermost ring. All of them were armed not only with bows and arrows but also with swords and daggers, ensuring no escape. These were some of the best archers in the kingdom of Magadha. Having received a single, chilling order to assassinate the Buddha once he arrived on the road, the first archer, hiding stealthily in the bushes, heard the gentle footsteps on the road, the distinct, unhurried pace of the Buddha. He took his aim, stretched his bowstring taut, the arrow poised for release. The next thing he saw was the Buddha arriving, walking slowly, serenely, utterly unconcerned. Now he could finally see him clearly. He remembered the king's order and aimed his arrow. Suddenly, something extraordinary happened. He felt that his body was becoming stiff, paralyzed, and he could not move a single muscle. He was terrified. He felt, with a profound and unsettling certainty, that the Buddha was looking directly into his eyes, not with judgment, but with an overwhelming wave of loving kindness, metta. The Buddha, seeing his inner turmoil, told the archer lovingly to come to him and not to be afraid of him. The archer, overwhelmed by this unseen force, put his bow and arrow down on the ground, approached the Buddha, fell at his feet, and began begging for forgiveness. The other archers, unaware of what had just happened to their comrade, tried to execute their orders. But when they attempted to kill the Buddha, the very same thing happened to them. They too became paralyzed, unable to move their bodies as long as they harbored the intention to kill him. Terrified by this miraculous event, all of them ran towards the Buddha, abandoning their weapons, and begged for forgiveness. They were instantly pardoned by the great teacher, who saw their inner suffering, and all of them took refuge in the Dhamma and the Sangha, becoming his followers. Buddhist insight. This initial assassination attempt highlights the Buddha's complete non-violence, ahimsa, and the transformative power of his metta, loving-kindness, and karuna, compassion. The archer's paralysis is symbolic of the power of the enlightened mind to disarm hatred and aggression. It's not a magical feat, but the effect of a mind utterly free from fear and ill will, radiating such profound peace that it disarms hostility. Devadatta's actions stem from tanha, craving for power, and dosa, hatred, resentment, two of the three poisons. His schism from the Sangha represents the challenges of ego even within spiritual communities. King Ajatashatru's patricide reveals the dark side of unchecked ambition, driven by Devadatta's provocation. Chapter 2. The rockfall and the wounded foot, karma's ripening and compassion's reach. The king, Ajatashatru, was furious with the utter failure of his elite archers to execute his order. Devadatta, ever the schemer, entered the chambers of the enraged king. Seeing his plan to have the Buddha killed by proxy fail, Devadatta decided he would himself attempt to kill the Buddha. He meticulously planned his next attempt. He reached Gridakuta Hill, Vulture's Peak, where the Buddha was staying with his followers, and waited for the Buddha to descend onto the road, standing on a peak high above. When the Buddha came into view, Devadatta hurled a large rock down towards him, aiming to crush him. However, by a seeming miracle, the rock broke down into two parts after it collided with another rock midway, preventing it from directly crushing the Buddha. Nevertheless, the sharp splinters of the shattered rock struck the Buddha's foot, causing a severe injury and drawing blood. This was the only physical harm the Buddha ever sustained from an assassination attempt. Javaka, the royal physician of Rajagaya and a devout follower, immediately treated the Buddha with his expert care and the Buddha's inherent resilience. In a few days, the Buddha was fit again to walk, his wound healing remarkably. Devadatta was enraged by his repeated failure. His hatred and frustration only intensified. He came back to King Ajatashatru with yet another, even more audacious, plan to kill the Buddha. The king had a very aggressive and enormous elephant named Nalagiri. This elephant was known for its wild nature, its immense strength, and its extreme difficulty to control. All the Mahouts, elephant trainers, were terrified of Nalagiri, as he had tragically killed several men before. As for the plot, Devadatta went to the royal Mahout and cunningly bribed him to get the elephant intoxicated with vast amounts of liquor. The plan was to unleash the maddened elephant directly onto the Buddha's path. One day, the Buddha was seen walking on the road of Rajagaya along with his followers, peacefully begging for alms. At that moment, the intoxicated elephant Nalagiri was set loose. The ferocious, maddened elephant came charging towards him, destroying everything in its path, trampling people and scattering stalls, causing immense panic and terror among the villagers. When his prime disciple, Ananda, saw the colossal elephant Nalagiri coming charging furiously towards the Buddha, he instinctively moved in front of the Buddha, putting his own life at risk to protect his beloved master from the rampaging beast. The Buddha gently told Ananda that nothing could harm him and asked him to step away. Knowing that his own enlightenment provided an unparalleled protection, the Buddha then moved slowly, calmly, and fearlessly towards the intoxicated elephant. As the charging elephant came directly in front of him, the Buddha, with an act of supreme metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion, simply put his hand over Nalagiri's trunk and spoke to him softly, radiating boundless love. Instantly, a miracle unfolded. Nalagiri immediately became quiet, his ferocity melting away under the loving kindness of the Buddha. The once wild elephant simply sat on the feet of the Buddha, completely tamed and peaceful, its rage utterly dissipated. Buddhist insight. The rockfall incident is interpreted as the ripening of karma from a past life where the Buddha, in a previous incarnation, had harmed a fellow being. Even an enlightened being is subject to the karmic results of past unskillful actions. Though the impact is lessened, this demonstrates the universal law of karma. Devadatta's actions further exemplify dosa, hatred, and moha, delusion. The story of Nalagiri is another iconic demonstration of the transformative power of the Buddha's metta, loving-kindness, and karuna, compassion. His calm in the face of danger showcases upekkha, equanimity, and the invincibility of a mind free from fear and anger. Ananda's self-sacrificing act demonstrates his deep devotion and the principle of seva, service. The taming of Nalagiri is a direct parallel to taming the wild, untamed mind through compassion. Chapter 3. The King's Repentance and Devadatta's Unfortunate End. By that time, witnessing the miraculous taming of Nalagiri and countless other demonstrations of the Buddha's profound wisdom and invincibility, King Ajatashatru had begun to realize the grave mistakes he had committed under Devadatta's influence. A deep sense of remorse began to settle upon him. He immediately ordered his father, King Bimbisara, to be released from prison. However, when the guards went to the prison to release Bimbisara, they found that he was already dead. It was tragically too late for his release. The king repented deeply for his actions and immediately went to the Buddha to seek forgiveness for his attempts to assassinate him and for his patricide. The Buddha, with his boundless compassion, offered him guidance and solace, leading Ajatashatru towards the Dhamma. Ajatashatru, now truly devoted to the Buddha, ordered Devadatta to leave his kingdom. Devadatta, now abandoned by his powerful ally and with many of his followers deserting him, left Rajagaya along with only a few remaining loyalists. By this time, Devadatta had grown very sick, spitting blood from his mouth, his body weakening. A profound realization began to dawn upon him. He understood that whatever he had done to the Buddha was the greatest of sins, an act of immense negative karma. He was consumed by remorse and a desperate desire to seek forgiveness from the Buddha before his end. Realizing that his end was near, his desire to meet the Buddha became overwhelming. The Buddha, with his omniscient wisdom, told his followers that Devadatta would not be able to see him again in this life. His karmic debt prevented it. Nevertheless, Devadatta, clinging to this final hope, came to know that at that time the Buddha was staying at the Yeta Grove Monastery, Jetavana Vihara, in Savatthi for his rainy season retreat. He began his arduous journey towards Savatthi, desperately trying to reach the Buddha. However, immediately before reaching the Jetavana Vihara, while on a boat crossing a pond, Devadatta sank into the earth, unable to complete his journey or meet the Buddha one last time. It is said that the marshy land near the Jetavana Vihara in Savatthi is the place where Devadatta sank into the earth due to his heavy negative karma. Before his death, in his very last breath, Devadatta is said to have taken refuge in the Buddha, uttering his name as a final act of repentance, signifying a glimmer of positive intention. However late, Buddhist insight, King Ajatashatru's repentance and eventual embrace of the Dhamma illustrates the transformative power of the Buddha's teachings and the potential for even those who have committed grave misdeeds to find the path. Devadatta's ultimate suffering and unfortunate end are direct consequences of his negative karma driven by hatred, dosa, and craving for power, tanha. His inability to see the Buddha before death signifies the immense weight of his accumulated unwholesome actions. However, his final act of taking refuge in the Buddha, even in his last breath, hints at the possibility of a better rebirth, reflecting the Buddhist understanding that even a moment of wholesome intention can have a karmic effect. This story serves as a powerful warning against pride, jealousy, and the consequences of harming an enlightened being. Conclusion: the triumph of Dhamma, resilience, transformation, and the path to true freedom. The dramatic narrative of the Buddha's confrontations with Devadatta and his assassination attempts is far more than a mere historical account of intrigue. It is a profound, living testament to the unshakable resilience of enlightenment, the boundless power of compassion, and the ultimate triumph of the Dhamma over the darkest forces of human nature. These stories provide invaluable lessons for navigating our own complex lives, filled with challenges, conflicts, and internal struggles. Key learnings for your personal Buddha story. The invincibility of an awakened mind. The Buddha faced physical assaults, cunning plots, and the most insidious psychological temptations, yet remained utterly unharmed, his serenity unbroken. This teaches us that true protection comes not from external defenses, but from an inner state of peace, non-attachment, upekkha, and freedom from fear. When your mind is liberated from defilements, external negativity loses its power over you. Personal application. When facing criticism, hostility, or even direct attacks in your life, at work, online, in relationships, remember the Buddha's example. Cultivate inner calm. Your true invincibility lies in your ability to remain undisturbed, not to retaliate. The transformative power of compassion, karuna, and loving kindness, metta, the Buddha's ability to disarm archers and tame the raging elephant Nalagiri through pure metta is a powerful metaphor. It demonstrates that hatred cannot be conquered by hatred. Only by non-hatred and boundless compassion can hostility be truly appeased. Personal application. When confronted with anger or aggression, resist the urge to react with similar energy. Instead, consciously cultivate a feeling of kindness or understanding, even if it's difficult. This not only protects your own inner peace but can subtly transform the dynamic of the situation. Breaking the cycle of negativity. The nature of karma and personal responsibility. The stories of Ajatashatru and Devadatta powerfully illustrate the universal law of karma. Unwholesome actions, driven by greed, hatred, and ignorance, inevitably lead to suffering and undesirable outcomes, often in unexpected ways. However, repentance and wholesome intentions, even at the last moment, can mitigate suffering and lay seeds for future positive outcomes. Personal application. Take full responsibility for your actions, thoughts, and words. Understand that every choice creates a karmic ripple. While you cannot change the past, you can choose to act skillfully in the present, planting seeds for a more wholesome future. The challenge of ego and ambition within spirituality. Devadatta's tragic downfall serves as a stark warning. Even within a spiritual community, the defilements of pride, jealousy, and the craving for power can lead one astray, causing immense harm to oneself and others. Personal application. Be vigilant against the subtle whispers of ego in your own spiritual or personal growth journey. Are you seeking wisdom for genuine liberation, or for recognition, status, or a sense of superiority? Cultivate genuine humility and always check your intentions. The resilience of the Dhamma, despite relentless attacks and betrayals. The Dhamma not only survived but flourished. This demonstrates the inherent truth and liberating power of the Buddha's teachings. The Dhamma is ultimately indestructible because it reflects the truth of reality itself. Personal application. Trust in the inherent power of truth and wholesome principles in your own life. Even when faced with immense adversity, holding onto your core values, your ethical conduct, and your mindfulness will provide an unshakable foundation. The Buddha's life story is an unending source of inspiration, showing us that the path to liberation is not without its trials, but that through unwavering effort, profound compassion, and radical non-attachment, victory over suffering is always possible. Your journey, too, is part of this grand Buddha story. Will you choose to walk it with fear, or with the boundless courage and compassion of the awakened one? Thank you for watching, and may you always carry the profound peace and illuminating wisdom of these stories within your heart. Join our growing community by liking this video and subscribing to Buddha Story, where ancient wisdom beautifully meets modern mindfulness. What, Mara, in your life are you ready to confront with wisdom and compassion? Share your reflections and experiences in the comments below. Until our next encounter, may your path be filled with profound peace, deep understanding, and the radiant light of your own awakening.